New questions in the Idaho murder cases, so let's take a couple on. First, why surviving roommate, Dylan, who said she heard noises and then opens her door and witnesses a masked man, bushy eyebrows, walking right toward her and then past her, thank God, and out. She goes back in, she locks her door, but does not call 911 for 8 hours. And when she does, it's a weird thing where there's a friend there and he calls, she faints. It's confused. It's always been a nagging oddity of this. Our next guest says, slow down. Her name is Alanna Zabel. She says, I lived something eerily similar to this when she was back in school at the University of Buffalo. And she says there could be an explanation. Alanna, thank you very much. I know that this is a haunting story in your own life and you're not anxious to have to relive it. But you do believe you have insight here. So to those who say, this doesn't make sense, she saw a masked man, locked a door, didn't do anything, what do you say?
I say, unless you've been in those shoes, you don't know what it's like to walk 1,000 miles. And not many people really get to experience something this horrific and this heightened state of fight or flight. And uniquely in both of our situations, we were young. I was 19 years old. My paradigm of life was fun, parties. People were coming and going through our house. We didn't have the inkling that somebody could be watching us or that someone would want to do something to harm us. So when you live with 5 people and let's say the screen is out of place, you don't think the worst. You just think, oh, who moved the screen? You're trying to figure out, and if there's even an inkling, like seeing someone in a mask, could it be a fraternity prank? You don't want to call the police and think, oh, I just got my friends in trouble for having fun, or when you're in that total frozen state of not knowing the reality, you really want to lean towards it not being something awful and horrific, because it's a rare experience to have something this horrific happen.
Now, in your case, the next morning you realized a very different reality. The police came. It was a horrific scene. Luckily, the roommate, in your case, survived. Similarly here, the next morning, she thought maybe one of the kids is unconscious. She won't open the door. And then there's panic. She calls a friend to come over before she calls the police. Maybe she faints. That makes sense to you as well.
It does, and especially when I heard this story that she passed out when the reality of the situation really registered in her mind. Our minds are powerful mechanisms to survive, and she clearly didn't have the capacity to embrace the horror of what was happening, and she wanted to block it out. She wanted, maybe she's had prior traumas. These are trauma responses, and the fact that she passed out shows us it's like a computer. Our minds are like a computer, and if you put a program on a computer that doesn't have the capacity, your computer will crash. She passed out. She was not able to handle this. And I think we need to just show her so much more compassion and stop tearing her down. And it's sad that in today's age of social media, everyone wants to just tear her down and say, I would have done this, I would have done that. Well, just because you watch true crime movies, or just because you know how Lionel Messi should be acting on the playing field, does not give you the right to tell someone what to do in a situation like this.
Well, look, too often, especially with media, social media these days, people stink. But there was one other aspect that I thought was really important, because I've been reminded a couple of times by people that people connected to this story are watching our coverage. And you said, look, when I saw the room the next day and the officers told me how gory it was, I was overwhelmed, because I hadn't even been able to imagine that. Very similar, the same thing in Idaho. And forget about culpability. Now it's about survivability. What do you want the surviving roommates to know about how it worked for you and how they have to protect themselves?
There are 2 different eras, first of all, and 2 different situations. I didn't see the attacker, but in my situation 30 years ago, I didn't have someone coming to give me counseling. I didn't have my school didn't even stop and allow me to take a break from my semester. I just moved on in life because that's what we did 30 years ago. Nowadays, we have so much more advances in mental health and in counseling. And I hope, because the thing is, it's not going to go away. So I hope that these girls can take this experience and try to shine light and do more good in this world, because we need more people that can, you know, have this experience and be able to turn it around and help other people and help to shine light on things. I hope that we can look at the beautiful lives that these girls shared, and Ethan as well. So you know, that's the best thing that I can offer is them to just, it's not their fault, take no blame, and do your best to help others, because it's not going to go away.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.